Hello, guys. This is going to be my final 2022 Senate prediction. So let's see how many states I get right by looking back at this video, probably like a week or two from now, when all the Senate states are pretty much done counting their votes. Because we're going to be waiting a while on Pennsylvania results. Definitely Arizona's going to be the longest wait, I think. But Pennsylvania, Georgia is probably going to be, well, let's not make a declaration there yet. But yeah, let's get right into this. So California, Oregon, Hawaii, these states are really just not going to be close at all. I don't know why Rick Scott still thinks Connecticut and Illinois are in range for the Republicans. He's just very overly optimistic for them, I guess. Alaska, Murkowski's easily going to win here by probably a likely margin against her more Republican, more right wing opponent. Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma. Missouri is not even going to be close. I mean, the Democrats really are running pretty much a very elitist candidate there, so she's going to get crushed there pretty easily. Chuck Grassley, that's one of the states I have the most positive about making solid, but I think he's a very strong incumbent. I don't think the Democrats all that good, so I think Grassley's easily going to win here just by about 11 points, I would say, against his Democratic opponent. In Utah, this is another one of those states which are like teetering unlikely and solid, but after seeing most of the new independent polling coming out here, it's showing that the Republicans pretty much going to beat McMullen here by over 10, probably by about 11 to 12 point margin, I would say, in the state of Utah. Pretty safe Republican victory in the state. It was close for a while. I mean, if this was a blue wave year, probably could have gone to likely or even lean, but it's going to be solid, safe for the GOP. Okay, now we head into the more of the other states. Florida, at this point, the early vote does have the Republicans pretty much ahead statewide in Florida by about 6%. And election day is just going to widen that gap between the Republican and Democrat, where Rubio is going to be winning by over 10 against his Democratic opponent, mainly because Democrats have failed to turn out in Miami-Dade, and Republicans are probably going to win that county come election day, shockingly. I didn't expect Miami-Dade to flip this early, but Democrats just aren't turning out there. More Republicans are. In the state of North Carolina, I think this stays pretty out of range for Democrats at this point. Emerson and East Carolina University have came in showing the Ted Budd with a 5% lead, and they're still undecideds there, so I think Ted Budd will probably win here by 5.5 or even 6% against an otherwise, well, decent Democratic candidate. Cherry Beasley was a really strong one, but it's just a lean Republican year, so she's really not going to win in North Carolina. In Washington State, I say it's about a likely state for the Democrats. Murray's probably gonna win by about 8%, I would say, against her Republican opponent. Is gonna get decently close here, but I still think Democrats are gonna be turning out here, and I still don't think the Republicans are gonna pick up this seat. Same with Colorado, honestly. Joe Day is running a decent campaign for Republican here. However, Michael Bennet is a pretty strong Democratic candidate, so I think he's going to ward off that challenge, especially with Trump just taking a shot at Joe Adea by saying he's just a rhino Republican and not to vote for him. That's definitely going to hurt Republican turnout here in Colorado. Which state should we go to next? Let's go to Ohio. This state, it's teetering between likely and lean at this point, but I will say J.D. Vance is going to significantly underperform Trump still. I think Vance is only going to pull off a 4.5% victory just under the likely margin because Tim Ryan's that good of a candidate. He's definitely going to hold them below that 5% threshold, I think. There's definitely a lot of good early vote numbers there in Ohio as well, but Tim Ryan's still going to lose. If it was a lean blue year, Tim Ryan would probably be winning right now in Ohio, just like how Sherrod Brown won in the past. But I do think Tim Ryan's probably going to lose here. And we'll probably know fairly early in the night, too, because Ohio counts its votes pretty fast. In the state of New Hampshire, I know St. Aslam, that poll is pretty accurate in New Hampshire, but again, you look at the sample of that poll, I just think it was very off. It has Republicans winning 18 to 34-year-olds by 15%. That's usually the opposite in New Hampshire. Republicans never perform that well with young people in a swing state like New Hampshire. So I think that was just a bad sample. Plus, Emerson did a poll here showing her up 4%. So I rather go with saying that's a bad sample on that one Anselm poll. And Trafalgar isn't really that good at predicting New Hampshire elections anyway, so I don't really trust their intake, especially in New Hampshire. Plus, Don Bolduc is just kind of crazy as a Republican nominee. He has a lot of just gaffes in general, so I'm going to probably count him out as winning in New Hampshire. But it could happen. I mean, if Republicans outperform the polls, they could flip New Hampshire, but I think it's pretty unlikely that they do that. In the state of Wisconsin, Ron Johnson looks like he's going to be winning by about 2.5% against Mandela Barnes. Mandela Barnes has done a good job at narrowing the gap. It used to be like a 4% victory for Johnson. So that Obama rally certainly helped. Obama rallied a lot of states: Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania. So I do think he's helping turn out Democrats here. And early voting in Wisconsin looks pretty good for Barnes. But I just think independent voters and Republicans are going to come out on election day and get rid of any lead he has in the early voting in Wisconsin. It's not enough of a lead to withhold election day, basically. We only have a few states left here. Let's head to Nevada, where the early voting numbers aren't the best. I mean, the Clark County firewall is only like 30,000 votes as of right now. The good thing for Democrats is it's only going to be mail-in voting all the way till Election Day. There's no more in-person early votes that are coming in anymore. So that's one positive thing for Democrats. They could get it down to a tilt margin. And on Election Day in 2020, the Republicans only won it by 1%. So, and plus, I heard it's going to be raining and it's going to be possible blizzard in Nevada. Well, in northern Nevada. So that may stop Republican turnout a bit. But I still think after adding up all the totals here, Democrats are only ahead in the state by 6,000 votes. As of right now, with all the early voting and mail-in ballots combined, they're only ahead by 6,000. I don't think that's enough of a lead to stop Election Day from overwhelming the Democrats, which is why I think Laxalt's going to pull off a 1.5% victory against Catherine Cortez Masto, who is probably one of the most vulnerable incumbents this cycle. And we're left with the 3 toss-up states, each of which are going to be decided by tilt margins. They're coming down to the wire, and it's pretty much just turnout at this point. Let's start with Arizona, which should be the easier one to decide here. I still think Mark Kelly's going to win, but Blake Masters has significantly narrowed the gap here. He's starting to tie with Mark Kelly in some of these polls. However, I do have to give pause to it because Mark Kelly's still winning the independent votes in these polls by quite a bit. So, again, Republicans are going to have really good turnout on Election Day to win this state. I still think Mark Kelly's slightly favored here, and I would probably bet on him winning this election here. I wouldn't be scared to even bet money on him winning in Arizona. But, yeah, I think he'd still pull off a victory here, just under 1%, like a 0.5% victory, going down to the wire in Arizona. Now in Pennsylvania. I know some of you may disagree with this take, as you have before, but I still think Fetterman's slightly favored here, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you actual evidence. So you take a look at these polls. The polls showing odds with the lead. Insider Advantage, Republican pollster, Trafalgar Group usually favors Republicans in their polls. They had Trump winning in 2020. Pretty sure Insider Advantage had the same thing. Remington Research Group, another Republican pollster. Marist College, probably Democratic-leaning pollster. They said Biden was going to win PA by 5%, and he only won it by 1%. But Fetterman's leading by more than Biden did. So if you apply that same polling error, that means Fetterman wins by 2 here. Susquehanna polling, it's a Republican pollster, only showing odds with a 1% lead. Emerson College, one of the few independent pollsters that actually show an Oz lead. It's basically a wash. 48 to 47, that's basically a tied race. While Suffolk University showing a 2% lead, Fox News showing 3% lead. So Oz isn't going to have a comfortable victory. It's going to go down to the wire either way. It could be tilt Republican or tilt Democratic. I'm only saying it's tilt Democratic because based on how much early votes are in Pennsylvania already banked, Republicans need to do extremely good on Election Day. They need to be probably winning Election Day by more than 20 points at least. So far, Fetterman has around like a 540,000 vote lead in the early vote, just doing the math on it alone. So 540,000 votes are going to be very hard to override here in the state of Pennsylvania. Plus, most of the polls still say Oz's unfavorables are very, very low. And you look at the undecideds left over, they're probably going to break even 50-50 for each side, probably, just because of those low unfavorables from Dr. Oz. Even Republican pollsters say Oz has worse favorables than Fetterman at this point. So I think Fetterman's still slightly favored here, but if I were to say direct odds, probably a 54% chance in favor of Fetterman, 46% chance in favor of Oz. But I think he's slightly favored. Now in the state of Georgia, let's head to the polling there for a second. Let's go back. Okay, so the polling there, it's pretty much the same story as Pennsylvania, honestly. Again, it's mainly Republican pollsters showing Herschel Walker with a lead, and Democratic pollsters showing Raphael Warnock with a lead. However, they do admit it's a tie in a likely voter race. Marist College, Survey USA, that's a very Democratic pollster, so it doesn't really, 6-point lead doesn't really mean much from them. Emerson College, though, very independent pollster, usually gets the race right a lot of the times. Fox News, a ton of undecided still, which is kind of ridiculous. But still, it's kind of the same story as Pennsylvania. But you could tell by the early voting numbers that so far it's only at 29% of the black vote. Usually you need 30% of the black vote in Georgia to win the state just outright. So based on that, and plus Brian Kemp's leading by a likely margin in the state of Georgia for the governor race, I think that might elevate Herschel Walker just enough to slightly have a vote lead over him. It's going to a runoff, though. It's for sure going to a runoff in this state. So I would probably just fill it in. Hold up. So I don't get that pie graph. I'm going to put none. And I'm going to be typing runoff in purple. Let me just do this really quick. It's definitely going to a runoff. But I do think Herschel Walker will be slightly ahead of him by a tilt margin. But he will not get over 50%. So it's going to a runoff here, and I do think it's going to be a real toss-up race. If I were to bet on someone, it would probably be Warnock, because I do think African Americans, if the Senate is on the line, will come out to vote extremely hard in the Georgia Senate race. But as of right now, this is the Senate map, and based on the remaining tilts here, tilt Pennsylvania, tilt Arizona, and tilt Republican Georgia, it's looking like, just based off the odds, Democrats have to win 3 coin flips in a row. So statistically, the Republicans have a better chance of taking the Senate than the Democrats. But I do think the Democrats are probably favored in all 3 races, except for Georgia, which I think it'll be tilt Republican for Walker at first. But the runoff will pretty much tilt Democratic then. So, yeah, that's my current election predictions. Let me just fill this in so far. 49 Democrats, 50 Republicans, and 1 runoff. So, thank you guys for watching my final Senate prediction. Let's see how correct I get these states in the 2022 Senate elections. Bye.